Hello, hello, I am Jazmin Kylene, and welcome to another episode of From Soul to Song. Today we have rising R&B singer, songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist all the way from Marlton, New Jersey, who just released his brand new project, P.O.V. Welcome, welcome, Tone. How are you?
Hello. I'm great. I'm amazing.
Gorgeous. I'd love to know, outside of like what you do, how do you introduce yourself? How would you define yourself?
I mean just kind of how you did it. And just singer, songwriter, producer, yeah, multi-instrumentalist. No, but I think you did a perfect job. That's pretty much how I would do
Of
it.
course, beautiful. And it's a gorgeous time to be talking to you because this project just landed into the world and everyone is responding to it so like loudly. It's landing itself on so many playlists and people are just really rocking with it and
Yeah.
connecting with it. So I'd love to know, now that it's out there in the world that's sort of consuming it, how do you feel?
Like honestly, I don't think I could put it in words. I've been telling like my team and just people that I've been around that this is like I don't know. This project has outdone any other project that I've released in the past, and it's only been 5 or 6 days. So like the response that I'm getting is just insane. I'm seeing people like saying like this is your best body of work yet. No skips, and just like I don't know. I just think the way that I'm telling my story on this project, I feel like it's just touching people, and and a lot of people can relate. So I think it's going better than I expected.
And how are you celebrating? What does celebrating look like for you?
Oh, celebrating is just more working. Just keep working. Just got to do more work. That's all.
I got you. And it's funny because this project I feel like is the first sort of body of work that you put out in a minute, right? Basically since 2021. And so I'd love
Yeah.
to know in that period of
21.
time, what about life informed you about what you made this time?
For me, it was really like I love all my music. And I've always written from experience and from real life situations. But this time around, it was let me. How do I tell a little bit of my story through these songs and what I really went through my life and my relationships and my love life and my home life and witnessing like even my parents' relationship and how that had an effect on me. So it really was taking time to learn myself, and process where I'm at in life, process what this journey means to me and what this music means to me. So, me and my team, we wanted to take it a step higher and just make sure we were putting out the best quality work.
Totally. And it's funny because you mentioned your parents, which I was so excited to talk to you about because I feel like
Yeah,
that story of reconciliation is so fascinating and so
yeah.
beautiful to me. And so I'd love to know, as someone as a product of that, as someone who was in the ecosystem and witnessed it, how do you think that affects the way that you navigate relationship? Because I feel like a lot of people in our generation don't even have like the patience to come back together like that, you know?
Yeah, no, no, for real. I think that's what we're definitely lacking. But
Yeah.
I would say for me it was just so unique because I was so young when they weren't together, and I just remember like picking up on things and just asking all the questions in the world and like, why? Like, why it doesn't make sense. This doesn't add up. I mean, why is this? Why is that? Well, I'm going here on the weekend. And eventually it I guess it clicked for them. Like, you know what? We're role models. We're representation. He's watching us. So my parents are amazing too. I mean, they're different. So they, put their differences aside and really got back together. And I was about, I think, like 12 or 13 when they got back together, and I got to really see that. You know what I'm saying? And I got to see like, okay, it wasn't like a Disney movie. You know what I'm saying? Where everybody get back together and it's all a happy ending or whatever. But it was, I got to really see them work past their differences and really work towards it. And I always say I watch them choose each other every day. You know what I'm saying? Like they had to choose to work to it. You know what I'm saying? Because they love each other. But when you're with somebody, you have to choose that person every day. And I think for me, I haven't heard a situation like that before. I haven't talked to anybody who was like, yeah, oh, my parents went through the same thing. So I think for me, that just really navigated the love I have towards people, and I was always surrounded by love and just like, okay, now you got to work through your problems. You just don't, you know what I'm saying? You just don't leave them and drop them off and move on to the next one. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a beautiful. I was trying to think. I was like, damn, have I ever heard a story like this? But I think it was. I don't know if you ever watched Housewives of Atlanta, but Nene Leakes and her husband got
Uh-huh.
back together at some point,
See, that's dope.
and I was like, come on, love is real, and I think it's
Right.
beautiful. And I'd love to know, um, if you derived it from that or just through life at all. What's like a non-negotiable for you when it comes to your relationships?
Um, mm, a non-negotiable is, I guess, somebody that's not willing to compromise. And I say compromise not meaning like, oh, you gotta not be yourself, but when you're in a relationship, you're in a relationship with another person, so you get to learn each other, and you get to learn what things your partner might be uncomfortable with, and what not to do. And I feel like there's certain things that if you want to grow in a relationship and that partner is not willing to do, that's a red flag. So if you're not willing to compromise in certain ways, it's like, oh, no, 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 you're not ready for this. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, man. And I feel like love has become so quick and transactional. And I feel like when we get back to the roots of like what I think real R&B was talking about, which is like
Right.
love that takes work and passion and that like intentional choosing, I think that's when we can kind
Yep.
of revive that. And I feel like you're playing such a beautiful role in like making the music that reminds us of like what love is really supposed to taste like and then the depth
Mhm.
of it. And so I'd love to know, just going into that, what's your perspective on the shift of R&B and with that the shift of like, how social media has affected relationships and all
Yeah.
of that.
There's definitely been a shift. I think I've been talking a lot about this, and somebody that I'm really cool with, Sammy, the artist Sammy. So he says something really cool in the interview he had. He said, hip hop, was the dominating genre for a while, and I think it influenced R&B and people in R&B. And I'll say more specifically males, but I think it influenced R&B to be more like tough. You know what I'm saying, and have more tough skin when you look back at the older R&B and the music that was put out in the '90s, like even though you had the groups like Jodeci, you know what I'm saying, where it was still hood, but it was still being emotional. It was still being sensitive. It was still talking about, how they felt about the person that they were with. So I think that's where we started to get lost. It was like, okay, we're over here trying to compete with, being hard and flexing and doing this and that. But when this genre was really created for love, it was really created to explain how you feel to your partner. It was really created, what I'm saying, to bring people together. And I think that's what the switch was. But I do feel like it's coming back around. I feel like, I mean, I can speak for myself in this project. That is the driving force. It's like, let me take y'all on a journey through this relationship, and how, it could be good, it could be bad, or how you have to take accountability for the things that you do mess up on. So I definitely wanted a more intimate project, and I feel like now that I have put that out, I think it's responding really well in these days.
Yeah, because I think people need that. People are craving like honesty and for people to sort of like unmask themselves and like love
Right.
takes vulnerability and it takes being to some degree naked. And I feel like it's so important that we get back to that. And so I'd love to know when you reflect back on like, because I know you grew up in a household that really honored music. Do you remember
Yeah.
like the first song or the first artist that like awoken you to like your love for music like that?
Um, that's tough. That's tough. That's tough. I remember, because it's like I could break it down in two situations. So I
Yeah.
remember being very young and my mom always playing Patti LaBelle and Shaka Khan, right? So she will always play them in the house. Then I remember growing up about 7 or 8, and then really getting to know Michael Jackson for the first time and Prince, which is very ironic because I was put on their music at the same, like all in that year when I was 8 years old. And I think I've always had the love for music, but then when I was put onto like MJ Prince, it was like, oh, okay, this is different. You know what I'm saying? And as you know, they're males in it too, so it was like, oh, okay, this is like, I want to do this. So yeah.
You witness greatness. I think it's so, like, no matter what age, or even if you understand what they're saying, I think like from your soul you can understand like I'm witnessing
This
something that's
is
beyond.
yeah, this is unreal, right?
Yeah, beautiful. And so even in that vein, I'm sure that at some point in your upbringing, Chris Brown kind of came around in your playlist. And so
Absolutely.
I'd love to know how your inner child feels about eventually getting to like collaborate with him the way that you have.
Oh man, I mean that was like, I remember that was my goal. I remember when Chris came out in '05, and
I
I
must
remember just
run it
being
crazy.
yeah, come on. I remember being in front of the TV just being like, who is this? Like, this is great, you know. And for me, I always say like just how, and don't let me leave out Usher too, because Usher had a really big influence on my career too. But
Totally.
for me, it was like when I was watching that, just how Michael was cool to a lot, like a whole generation. You know, I feel like Chris was that from my generation. He made it so that it was like, yo, you could really be cool and still do this singing stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I remember in high school, it was just one of my dreams. I was always just telling people like, yeah, one day, you know, I'm gonna work with Chris Brown. I'm gonna write some songs for Chris Brown. I remember people being like, yeah, right. And so when I met him, it was just kind of like, what is happening? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we got here fast because it was right. I think I graduated like 2013, so it was like 2014, 2015 when I met him. So it was just right after, and I was just like, yo, this is crazy. So yeah, once I worked with Chris, I mean, I was just in the studio, just pretty much studying, just like, you know, definitely being involved, but really just studying his craft and how he operates and how he thinks and, you know, everything like that. So I was just like, let me take it in. I'm around greatness. So
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, and him and I think what also him and Usher have in common are like longevity and their career
yeah.
still kill it. And I feel like you really emulate that. Someone who's willing to be a student and who is already showing evolution in what they were first putting out versus where you stand now with P.O.V. And so talking about this project, I'd love to know how you approached making it and how that differs from when you're like penning something for someone else. What's the difference for you?
Mm. I think the difference was like, well, for me, I make songs to just make songs.
Okay.
That's one. But during this project, and working on this project, it was very intentional, and I knew like every time I was going in the studio, I was working for this project, and so I mean, there's probably 50, 60 songs that was, you know, we had to decide from and figure out working on the project, but I think these 7 were the perfect way to just explain this story. And yeah, so I'm happy that we're here now. I'm happy that it's out. I'm happy people are enjoying it. And yeah, and then now I'm back on my writing, you know, and just like, oh, maybe this person might like this song, maybe this person might like this song. Now that the project is done, but yeah, I do write though, just to get it out and write and make
Yeah,
it
it's a
clear.
muscle. Yeah, you got to exercise it.
Yeah.
Outside of writing music, like, what's your self care look like? Do you journal at all, or how do you go about that?
So ironically, I just started journaling for real.
Go off.
I just started I just started that you know, that part of my life. I feel like I'm very in tune now, or I'm on that journey to be very in tune with myself and the things that I want to see and the things that I want to change here on earth while I'm here. So I'm just like, okay, you know, let me write down all these things and these days and how I'm feeling, and let me go back through, and it's almost like my own Bible, you could say. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I just started.
And where does smoking in the park, does weed at all play a role in your self-care? What does that look like for you?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I used to smoke. I started smoking when I was 16, and this year I quit. I just totally quit. I was
Oh
like, you know
dear.
what? I had to. I don't know. One day I had a little scare, and I was just like, you know what? That's a sign. I'm gonna leave it alone. And yeah, so I'm done. I'm done with it.
Child, can I tell you, same? And like it was a
Yeah.
part of my life. It's a part of my routine. And the one time that I had a trip where I was so paranoid and so outside of body, I was like, let me go ahead and let me leave it to the
Let me
kids.
just not. Let me not do. Let me put this down. Let me not do this anymore. It's not for
But I
me.
will say, I've heard that happen to a lot of people that were simultaneously kind of stepping into a part of their life where they were really being intentional about their energy and about cultivating that natural high through life
Mm,
and creativity. And so it feels
right.
like you kind of were in that same space of really taking ownership of yourself, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, and just taking care of my instrument. You know, like I just know, like, hey, you know, it's not gonna be the same forever, especially if you're doing that. So I was like, you know what,
Right.
let me just stop.
Are there any particular songs you're excited to take live?
Um, you know what, I'm excited to just do this whole project. I've been performing "I Need You," Girls Like You, a little bit of a Reposado. So I've been doing those songs live here and there. But I'm excited to really put the P.O.V show together, which I'm working on, and just having these songs come to life on stage.
Nice. Wait, so you're putting together a show. Can we hear anything about it? When do you think it'll start, hitting the
So
streets?
listen, so I can't announce this show. So on October 16th, I'm performing with Victoria Monet in New York at Terminal 5. So y'all get
Hey,
tickets. And then I am going on tour top of the year. I'll say from like February to March,
nice.
April. So I'm gonna announce that soon. But yeah,
Oh, beautiful. And it's beautiful that you're already collaborating with Victoria because I think that like y'all really are the faces of this like new age of R&B. And so I'd
absolutely.
love to know, what would you say to someone, especially like these old heads that are kind of like not letting themselves embrace all R&B or like what would you say to people that are like R&B is dead?
Um, I would say you're not being open enough. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm,
think every era always has a switch. Is always something different. And that's just the way of life, you know. Like the 10 years from now, it's gonna be different. But I say it's all about having an open perspective
right.
and appreciating art for what it is. Cause I can't lie, I was on that side of things where I was like, oh, this ain't real music. But then
Yeah.
I had to just kind of like, oh, you gotta meet people where they're at too. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta see what's going on and check the temperature of what's going on in today's time. So just have an
Mm.
open mindset.
I agree. I agree. Gotta let things shapeshift for sure. And this is my last question. It's if you want to
Mm-hmm.
ask everyone, what do you think is the best love song of all time?
Ooh, it could only be one.
Well, I mean, if you want to drop a couple, it's cool. I get it.
um. Ooh, I'm gonna say "Let's Stay Together."
Mm,
That is just like that explains just love. That explains everything.
in
And then
general, yeah.
I gotta throw my bro Marvin Gaye up in there. Probably say like "Let's Get It On" or something like that.
Mm,
Yeah, I think that's just the epitome like of love songs.
being a little sexy. Shout out to Marvin, yo. What an
Right,
icon.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, this generation probably doesn't know much about him, but he's him.
Him.
He's
He's him
him.
for real.
Marvin is
Yeah.
him. Right, right.
For real, for real. But thank you so, so, so much for sharing your story
I
with us, sharing your
appreciate
time
you.
with Soul
Yeah,
Era. We are a fan. We're rocking with you, and honestly, it's so cool to catch you here because you're really on the
yeah.
precipice of like catapulting into the stratosphere with your work and your honesty and honestly your light. You're just someone who's like happy to be here, and that really
Oh,
transcends
absolutely.
beyond anything else. So thank you. Is there anything else you want to say about the project or just in general?
Um, I just want to thank everybody who worked on this project with me. It's a lot of people. People might feel like, oh, he didn't mention me. So this is for everybody. I just appreciate everybody that put their time and energy into this just as much as I did. And then I want to thank my fans. I have a fan base. I mean, it's crazy these days lately. Walking around in public, whether it's the airport, like I was just in the airport the other day, getting Starbucks, and this girl that's working at Starbucks is like, I know you. And I'm like, yeah. He was like, she's like, where I know you from? I was like, you probably know my music. She was like, and I was like, I go by Tone. She was like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just crazy. I've been getting stopped in the airport. Like, everywhere that I go, it's just somebody's like, yo, I love your music, man. Keep going. So I appreciate the support, from the community and my fans. Like, that's the only thing that's going to keep me going. So.
Hey, yeah, you deserve it, and there's only more to come. So shout out
Exactly,
to
yeah.
you. We're rooting for you, and yeah, thank you for rocking with Soul Era.
Thank you, Jazmin. I appreciate it.